This
we are
conference will now be recorded.
we are starting back the online classes for the seventh semester, and the sixth semester exams are to be held, so that will be scheduled. So during that time there will be some 1 week or 15 days gap will be there for this semester, which is going on online, so that this academic year will not be wasted. So that is the idea of starting the online classes. And also all these days we were waiting for the permission of the university, and you might have seen in one of the letter issued from the registrar office has given the permission to start the online classes. Therefore the online classes have been scheduled in a timetable, so 2 hours morning and 2 hours afternoon for the week, and Saturday anyhow will be giving you demo to the laboratory or practical experiments. So that is a schedule. I think everybody has received by either WhatsApp or online the schedule of the seventh semester. So please cooperate and have a 100% participation in the online teaching classes, and you can have a contact, and there will be some maybe half an hour I'll give at the end of the each 2 hour session, so that we can clear some of your doubts, and maybe we can also discuss in deep or certain concepts which are not covered in the syllabus. But first let us start this class as an introductory class. I will take 1 hour only, because we are also having one meeting today to discuss about how to conduct this online classes. And however, this is a trial class which I am doing now, but attendance will be considered because the classes are starting from today. And further, if any changes are there, I will inform you in subsequent the class. Okay. So hope everybody is safe at home, and maybe utilizing this free time for the betterment of your career by doing some interesting work, maybe in terms of the project or mini project, or some internship programs, or reading the book, or preparing for the some entrance exams. So I think everybody is busy, that as per the feedback which I got from the students. So that's a good thing, and I appreciate all the students for the properly utilizing the this free time. Okay. So now this semester, particularly seventh semester, is very important for the chemical engineering students, because it will have very important subjects, and which will be very much useful to practice, to do the research work, or to maybe for your competitive exams. So these courses are very important. Therefore I expect and also I request all of you uh, participate in the teaching, or also have a one-on-one interaction with teachers, and also maybe with some resources or resource persons. In subsequent classes we will arrange as a special guest lectures in terms of webinars. So during that time you can have one-on-one interaction and get your doubts clear. Okay. And we will also conduct some tests, maybe slip test, or some assignments, or some other form in a Google form. We'll conduct that also, so that we will know that who are the students not following the classes and all. So this is the idea of the online classes. But I I got a feedback that many of you are having a limited data in your mobiles, and also the Wi-Fi connection at your place, either it is a village or town. I request you all, if any possibility is there, you please get updated the Wi-Fi connection, or because another 2 or 3 months this type of pandemic situation may continue. So it should not hamper our the teaching classes. So you please make all arrangements, and also get it updated of your Wi-Fi connection, or mobile data and all. So you please make arrangements that. So coming to the mass transfer operation course. So we have discussed at length in the mass transfer operation 1 of certain operations which are having mass as a separating agent, and also simultaneous mass and heat as separating agents, like drying and humidification. And now it's a very, in chemical process industry, the purification is a very crucial step. Purification of the product after getting reacted in a reactor. So this purification is done by using the separation operations, where all of you know that we will use either one of the agent, which is called a separating agent, to get separate the main product from the mixture, and which is having all reactants, unconverted reactants, and also the products along with the byproducts. Depends on the conversion and all. But this mixture is a sometimes, maybe you may get a binary mixture or multi-component mixtures. So from which you have to separate the product, or certain cases it is desired to separate one of the component which is escaping from the waste stream, either gas stream or liquid stream, and a solid stream. So we have to get separate. So separation operation as a whole is a very, very crucial, critical operation in the process plant, and which carries lot of weightage. So we have to give utmost, importance to this particular operation. So these the principles of all mass transfer operations are very important. So the mass transfer 1, we have studied absorption, stripping, drying and crystallization and humidification and dehumidification operations. So now let us take up very important operation, that is a distillation operation. So which is covered in the first 2 units. Then the third unit will be the extraction in mass transfer 2 course, and extraction and leaching will be in second unit. Third unit will be the adsorption, and fourth unit will be this membrane separation operations. Fourth and fifth units will cover the membrane separation operations. So in this particular course called mass transfer operations 2, so we are having 5 units, and the 5 units will contain very important concepts. The first one is distillation. So all of you know that from your physical chemistry knowledge, and also thermodynamics and chemical thermodynamics also you have studied, and you have also done certain the material balance, uh, the calculations. So during that time, you might have heard that distillation term. So distillation term is having a meaning of the separation by seeing the boiling point differences. So we'll take a mixture. In that mixture, if it is having two components or more than two components, and we'll see whether the boiling point differences are there or not. If the boiling point differences are there, then we will be just using the distillation operation to separate it. And in chemical in thermodynamics too, particularly, you have seen that liquid-liquid equilibrium, vapor liquid equilibrium. So that is a very important concept here, because all the mass transfer operations which we have discussed, except the membrane separation operations which you are going to discuss, are the equilibrium governed operation. So the end point is the equilibrium. So equilibrium will be attained, then the separation stops. The equilibrium between the separating agent phase and feed phase. So there will be an equilibrium which will be reached depending upon the conditions which prevailing in the system, or you are intentionally creating. Based on that, the separation will depend on. So that's why in many textbooks it is said that all the operations, mass transfer operations, are equilibrium governed operations. And you have also rate governed operations, but here equilibrium governed operations are very, very important. And the requirement, basic requirement for the equilibrium governed operations is thermodynamics. You should know the thermodynamics and phase equilibrium, etc. For example, if you see that typically the many examples which we have discussed in the mass transfer one also, they are only the binary mixtures. So that means there will be two mixtures, two components in a mixture. So specifically one component you are separating from that. So you should know the properties and characteristics of the that particular component. And when you know the A component and B component properties also, you should know. And then you should see what is the difference and how they are behaving. So thermodynamically, then you will separate. That's why all mass transfer operations also called thermal separation operations. Like you know, mechanical separation operations or mechanical unit operations, these are called thermal unit operations. In certain colleges or institutions, for mass transfer operations, this term also used. What is that? Thermal separation or thermal unit operations. So thermal unit operations are equilibrium governed operations, which are mass transfer operations. So where you have a one separating agent, and the separating agent will be brought in contact with the feed, and one of the component will transfer from the feed phase to the separating agent phase. So this will happen. So the separating agent phase may be either mass. Mass means another new phase which is having a immiscibility with this phase can be brought in contact. Therefore, one of the component can leave this one and enter into that. Or it may have a partial miscibility. So when it is having a partial miscibility, so a little quantity of separating agent phase can also dissolve in the feed phase. Then it will distribute one of the component which is contained in the feed phase commonly, and by taking and sharing basis, and finally it reaches to the equilibrium. So you have to very selectively choose the separating agent. In the distillation, coming to the distillation operation, the separating agent is here energy. So that is heat. So you will heat the mixture. So the mixture will take the heat, and then depending upon their boiling point differences, the one of the component which is having less boiling point will get evaporate and vaporizes into the form of vapors, and these vapors and liquid will be in contact, and at a given temperature and pressure, so they will be just in contact, sharing that particular components A and B, and finally the vapor phase will be rich with the less volatile component, and the liquid will be rich with the more boiling point component. In that way, certain separation may happen. So there are certain parameters which you have to define, by which you also should design the particular operation, whether you can do simply in a batch distillation, or you have to have a continuous distillation. So you have to decide a certain parameter. So these parameters are very, very important. So one of the parameter, all of you know that is the relative volatility. So relative volatility is the very important parameters. So before that, let us see the very all of you know the certain terms which are very much useful to understand the this distillation operation. One of the term is the vapor pressure. So 1 minute. Yeah, yeah. So one of the term is vapor pressure. So all of you should clearly define, and in number of cases I also defined, or in thermodynamics you might clearly define what is the vapor pressure and what is the partial pressure, particularly in case of the mixtures. So if you take a mixture, it contains various components. So the mixture means, if you take the mixture as a system, so it contains number of the components. So each individual is one entity. So that under the given conditions or prevailing conditions, pressure and temperature, and even concentrations, so their activity does depend. So all those things from the thermodynamics. So when they have been energized, so these components will be exerting some pressure on the system. So if any component is exerting some pressure on the system after getting into the vapor form, if components are exerting the pressure on the layer of the liquid, then you can call it as a vapor pressure. And the same component, if it exerts pressure on the boundary of the system, then you can call it as a partial pressure. So this is the basic difference. So that is very important to know, that it is not always equal to the vapor pressure is equal to the partial pressure. Maybe certain situations, that when the pure components are there, and if you give the boiling points, then the vapor pressures will be equal to the partial pressure. So otherwise vapor pressure and partial pressures will be different. So to differentiate that one, depending upon the composition and all, you have Raoult's law, and in the Raoult's law you might have defined in chemical and thermodynamics. So Raoult's law is the partial pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction of that particular component in the mixture. If it is having n number of components, and each component will be holding this particular equation, so that's why it is called an ideal mixture. So why ideal mixture is obeying the Raoult's law? Because you see there are the bonding. Suppose if you take a mixture of A and B, only binary mixture, so there will be different bondings between the A molecule to A molecule, and A molecule to B molecule, and B molecule to B molecule, and B molecule to A molecule. So there may be 4 different type of bondings will be there. So these bondings in ideal mixture will be having same bond energy. So to separate A to A and A to B and B to A and B to B, you require the same energy. So that's why heat of mixing will be equal in case of the ideal mixtures, whereas in case of the non-ideal mixtures, heat of mixing will not be equal. And this bond energies, to break the bonds, you have to give certain energy. So these energy levels will be different in non-ideal mixtures. So that's why Raoult's law is valid for the ideal mixtures. So it says that the partial pressure is directly proportional to Xi. The Xi is the mole fraction and Pi is the partial pressure. The proportionality constant is the vapor pressure. So that we know, all of you calculate based on its mole fraction and partial pressure. So then you will calculate what is the vapor pressure if you know the these things. And at the same time, you have now vapor phase and liquid phase in contact. In the vapor phase, you can assume that it is an ideal gas, and you know, individual partial pressures of components which are there in the gaseous mixture in the form of vapor. So the total pressure which is prevailing or which is exerted on that system will be equal to the summation of all partial pressures. So that is the Dalton law, and you can assume this one. So using these two in a simple model, that is an ideal mixture model, so you can able to establish the relation between the mole fraction of the component which is there in the vapor phase to the mole fraction of that particular component which is there in the liquid phase. You can have a relationship. So if you equate this P1 and all those things, you can able to estimate, because you know that here, as per the ideal gas law, the mole fraction of the component 1 in the Dalton's in the gaseous phase, which is a vapor phase, is equal to P1 by P total. So the P1 by P total is Yi. So in place of the P1, you can calculate P total into Yi. Then the P total Yi is equal to P1 bar, the P1 saturated, that is the saturation vapor pressure of the component 1 into X1. So that gives the very simple relation, which will gives the how many moles of component A will be there in the vapor phase and how many moles of that component will be there in the liquid phase. So you can say that whether it is getting separated or not based on the this. So in distillation, what we understood is that the separating agent phase, because it is having a some energy, so the vapor phase can be analogous to the separating agent phase, and the liquid phase which is not having that much of heat, so you can call it as a feed phase. So now you can also define the component which is having a low boiling point. Its present in the vapor phase will be more, so you can call it as a more volatile component, because its fraction in the vapor phase will be very high. And another component, its boiling point is very high, so that can be called as a low volatile component. So more volatile component, low volatile component, for a particular binary mixture, you can define the component which you are intended to separate is called more volatile component. The component which is remaining in the residue, that is in the liquid, is called less volatile component. Okay, so if you have A and B, for example, benzene and toluene, so benzene will be having a low boiling point temperature, so which is called more volatile component. Toluene is having a high boiling point temperature, so which is called low volatile component. So if you take such mixture and separate, and you will have more composition of benzene in the vapor phase, its composition in the liquid phase will be less. So if you isolate that vapor and condense it, then you will get a fractionation of the initially feed mixture into the two different fractions. One is a condensate, which is called distillate, and another is called residue or waste. In the residue, you will have less composition of the benzene, which is more volatile component, whereas in the condensate, and which is also called distillate, in that you will be having more composition of the benzene. In that way, the separation is possible. So because you are not completely separating the components 100%, and you are separating them into the two different fractions, so that's why in certain cases, or in a continuous distillation, you use the term as fractionation. So fractionation is also another term for the distillation which is usually used. Okay, so this vapor pressure is very important of the mixtures. So vapor pressures can have to be estimated in process calculations of the distillations. So these vapor pressures can be estimated by using the Clausius-Clapeyron equation. And all of you know that from the thermodynamics, here you can use this equation, and also you can use lambda, which is the molar latent heat of vaporization. And you should have some reference temperature, and at the reference temperature you should know the lambda value, and the lambda value is assumed as almost uniform and independent with the temperature. So that is not true. So Clausius-Clapeyron equation only gives the rough estimation of the vapor pressures, and in most of the cases we have to use the Antony equation. And Antony equation is defined as shown in the equation, like lnPa is equal to a minus b by t plus c, where a, b, c are Antony's constants, and these constants you can get from the data book. And all of you might be knowing from the chemical thermodynamics, there is a the property estimation is very important. So the vapor pressure estimation is also very crucial, and you have to just find out the vapor pressures. But however, the model which you are using is a simple model, that is a Raoult's law model. But Raoult's law model is only for ideal gas, ideal mixtures, and also the vapor is assumed as ideal gas, and liquid is used as a assumed as a ideal liquid mixture. So if you want to apply this relations, if you want to find out the relations for the non-ideal mixtures, then you have to find out the activity coefficients, and activity coefficients for the liquid mixtures you have to find out at a prevailing temperatures by using the various GE by RT models, excess Gibbs energy models. So you have Van Laer model, Margulis models, and all those things, NRTL, UNIFAC, and all these things you have learned that. So estimation of the activity coefficients also very typical, and you have to have the VLE data, vapor liquid equivalent data, to understand the distillation principles of that particular component, and also it will be useful for the process design of the distillation equipment. But however, and you can just find out that whether the distillation is easy or a complicated based on a particular parameter. So that we will discuss later. Before that, let us see the boiling point diagram, because this you have already known about this one. So if you just draw at a constant pressure, the temperature versus the mole fraction, you can see that on y-axis there will be a temperature, and x-axis there will be a composition of the one of the component. Let us consider the more volatile component, because it is a binary phase diagram. When you take a particular point on the x-axis, so 1 minus that axis will give you the mole fraction of the second component. So it doesn't matter that whether you take the mole fraction of the first component and second component. In the diagram you have seen that in a left to right it is given a mole fraction of the component 1, whereas at the top right to left it is given a mole fraction of the component 2. That means when the mole fraction of the component is 0, mole fraction of the component 2 is 1. So 1 means it is a pure of component 2. So component 2 will be a component which is having very low boiling point temperature. So that's why it is seen that boiling point temperature of the component 2, which is shown at low. So when you have only one component, you see that the transition from the vapor to liquid will be very short. So at a particular temperature, that is called boiling point temperature of the component 2, all liquid will be converting into the vapor. So it is entering into that. But once the mole fraction of the component 1 is increasing, then you see that there will be a certain loop which is shown in the binary phase diagram. So this loop indicates that there is a vapor and liquid coexistence between the two different temperatures. For example, if you take the mole fraction of the 0.25, then while you are at room temperature, you will be having a typically liquid, and when you are heating it, then slowly temperature reaches. That means the sensible heat of the liquid will be go on increasing, and it reaches to a point. At that point, you will see that the first bubble will form. So that is called bubble point temperature of the that particular composition of the mixture. Suppose a 0.15 is the mole fraction of the component 1, then you will have a 1 bubble point temperature. Then if you are heating further, giving that further, so there will be vapor phase and liquid phase will coexist for some time. Then if you go on heating, so you will find the everything will be converting into the vapor. You take at a particular high temperature, same composition of the mixture, then when you are cooling, then you will find at a particular temperature where you will get a first dew. So that is called the dew point temperature. So at a dew point temperature and bubble point temperature, you can see how much difference is there. If you find very wide difference between the bubble point temperature and the dew point temperature, that indicates that the separation is very easy. If they are very close, then the separation is difficult. So that is the how we should understand how much difficult the distillation is, how much easy is. Easiness of the operation can be found out by seeing the bubble point temperature and the dew point temperature of the composition of particular mixture. If the composition increases, then the bubble point dew point variation also enhances in certain time, and in certain cases they will be coming very close. And sometimes you may see that at a particular composition, the bubble point temperature and the dew point temperature will be equal. So such mixtures are different special mixtures. We can call them as isotropic mixtures. So its separation is very, very difficult. So these boiling point diagrams or the phase diagrams will give us the an idea that how difficult the separation is in case of the given system. So in this particular mass transfer 2 for the UG course, we will be only focusing on the separations of binary mixtures. So we will first understand how the binary mixtures can be separated, what are the different methods are there, what are the parameters which we have to consider, and how those parameters can be estimated. Then we will also focus on the process calculations of certain operations. So I think this diagram everybody is know from the chemical and thermodynamics too. Okay, and see these are the isobaric, that means at a constant pressure you can see the temperature versus mole fractions, and for a isothermal at a constant temperature, again you can draw the diagrams in a different manner. Okay, so this is also shows that when the it is zero, then you can have a when more volatile component is zero, means it is a less volatile component which will have a more boiling point. So this you can understand. Maybe isobaric and isothermal, you can see that same type of. But one thing you can understand that, for example, if I give a mixture, let us say ethanol water is given to you, ethanol water mixture is given to you, and I will say that it is existing at 45 degrees centigrade and 1 atmosphere pressure. Then immediately you should understand, being a chemical engineer, what is the state of that mixture. That is very important. What is the state of that mixture? Because you see, for example, if I take this one as a 0.2 is the mole fraction of the ethanol, and this is the temperature at which I am talking about 45 degrees centigrade. If it is falling below this bubble point curve, then you can say that state of the mixture is a subcooled liquid. And if it is falling on the bubble point curve, then you can say that the mixture is at its bubble point. The mixture is at its bubble point. It is saturated liquid. Saturated liquid means at any moment it can be evaporated. And if it is the 45 degrees is falling here for the same mixture, so you can say that it is a part mixture of vapor and liquid together, coexisting the vapor and liquid. Now the question comes, how much fraction of the vapor is there in a given mixture? So that is very important, you should find out. And then if it is falling on the dew point curve, then you can say that the given mixture is at its saturated vapor. Saturated vapor means if you reduce any small fraction of the temperature, take out the heat out, then it will be condensing out. So above this, it is a superheated vapor. That means you can understand in a reaction mixture, once the mixture is coming out after getting reacted under the prevailing conditions and all, then before giving feed to the next separating unit, then you should know what is the state of the mixture, or in which state the mixture is fed to the separating unit. That is very important. So you have to develop a criteria by which you can identify the state of the mixture. One thing is, if you are having a binary phase diagram, you can able to tell, because you know the temperature, you know the composition, you can tell. But this is not always available with you, the binary phase diagram, or sometimes it may have a multi-component mixture also. So that time you should able to tell. For example, you take you have benzene, toluene, hexane. These three components are together in a mixture. They are coming from a reactor. Now that reacting mixture is coming out and prevailing at a particular conditions like temperature, pressure. So those temperatures and pressure not created by you, because it is going through a unit, a pipeline or a chamber. In the chamber, those conditions are automatically prevailed by some environment which has been existing in the plant. So under that environment, what is the condition of the that particular feed mixture? So you should able to tell. For example, you want to feed the mixture into the next column, that is separating unit, in terms of the saturated liquid. Then if it is under the subcooled liquid condition, then you have to heat it up to its boiling point, then you have to feed. So there is a one ancillary unit is required, which you may call as a heater. That's why you see in the process flow sheet, after the reactor, before entering into the separating unit, you will have a small units which are called heaters or sometimes coolers. So these will give you such a condition to the feed mixture before entering into the separating unit as desired by you, because you may give the feed in the conditions of saturated liquid, in the conditions of the saturated vapor, or whatever you want. Sometimes you can also use vapor plus liquid mixture, so that the certain separation may be very easy. So these are the certain things which you should know. Therefore, all of you, please note down an assignment that it's a you take any book, and find out, uh, or you can also develop a criteria by which you can able to identify the state of the mixture at a given temperature and pressure. The state of the mixture, when I say, that means you know the compositions. For example, A, B, C, D, E are there. So 0.3, 0.2, 0.4, 0.3, like that. some compositions have been given. That's why I'm giving given mixture. For a given mixture at a given prevailing temperature and pressure, how do you estimate the state of the mixture? State of the mixture means straight away you can say whether 5 states will be there: subcooled state, saturated liquid state, and vapor plus liquid state, and saturated vapor state, and superheated vapor state. So how do you find out? Not by using the binary phase diagram. So you have to develop certain equations or set up the equations by which you can able to find out. So you try that one. Then next class I will explain how to find out by using different equations the state of the either binary mixture or a multi-component mixture, because that is very important when you are in the plant. So usually when you are in the plant, suddenly temperature and pressures are raised, then you should immediately guess that what is the condition of the stream which is going into that particular pipeline, because the pipeline temperature and pressures are raised now. So when you are able to guess it, then only you can avoid the any accident which is going to occur. So that is very important. So you should look into the a criteria by which you can able to identify the state of the mixture. Okay, so if you do that and you can understand, I will explain that in thoroughly in the next class. Okay, then now you see when you take what are the parameters which are very important. This type of analysis is very important before designing a distillation. For example, there are two phases are coexisting, and how many components are there, that is very important. Let us take a binary component. So all of you know that the phase rule is what? Number of degrees of freedom. F is equal to C minus P plus 2. C is a components, number of components, and P is the number of phases, and 2 is one temperature, one pressure. Okay, so now particularly binary mixture which is getting separated by using the boiling point differences, because you are giving the energy, so that energy will take and immediately it cannot be in the form of liquid. So it will convert, certain portion will be converting into the vapor, certain portion will be converting into liquid, then they will be coexisting. Okay, now there are two phases, then the two components, because binary components you are doing, and now you have number of degrees of freedom of such a system will be 2. Okay, so 2 is pressure and temperature. So out of the total variables, how many variables are there? Total variables: temperature, pressure, vapor phase composition, and liquid phase composition. But we have 4 variables, but only 2 degrees of freedom. So that means if you fix the temperature and pressure, then automatically you see the vapor phase composition, liquid phase composition of the that particular. If you know the component A, component B is automatically known for binary system. Therefore, I am not talking about the compositions of the another low volatile component. I am only focusing on the more volatile component. So vapor phase composition of the more volatile component, liquid phase composition of the more volatile component, both are fixed when the temperature and pressure are fixed by you, or it is a condition in the operation. For example, let us say it is the temperature of so and so and pressure is so and so is compulsory you have to maintain in a chamber. So when you are maintaining this temperature and pressure at a fixed levels, then the vapor phase composition and the liquid phase composition you cannot vary. You cannot vary because temperature and pressure are already fixed. Okay. Similarly, if the temperature and vapor phase compositions are requirements at a particular temperature, the vapor phase composition this much you have to continuously remove, then the pressure and the liquid phase compositions are fixed automatically. So only 2 degrees of freedom will be there. So what we understood for a distillation operation, there will be two variables which you can able to vary, Okay. Then coming to the a quantity which we are interested to fix or interested to develop, that is called relative volatility. So relative volatility is a measure comparing the vapor pressures of the components in a liquid mixture of the chemicals. Like if the two components are there, it will say that how much relatively the component A is volatile than the component B. So this parameter is denoted with alpha. Uh, Alpha, we define that alpha is equal to Ya by Xa divided by Yb by Xb. What are the Ya and Xa? Ya is mole fraction of the more volatile component in the vapor phase, and Xa is the mole fraction of the more volatile component in the liquid phase. So you can say that the ratios of the more volatile component compositions divided by less volatile component, so that will give the alpha value. So if the binary mixture is there, you know that Yb is equal to 1 minus Ya and Xb is equal to 1 minus Xa, then you will get this relation. So this relation will be always useful when the alpha is constant. You can able to calculate the liquid waste is to be having this much composition, like 0.25, that means 25 mole percent of the component A should be left over in the waste. Then you can know how much of that particular component A can be obtained in the distillate. So in that way these equations are useful. Now alpha, if the alpha is very high, then the separation will be very easy. Okay, because you can use very easy method, very simple method. If the alpha value is the coming nearer to the 1, then the separation will become difficult. If it is 1, the separation is not possible. You can see that if the 1 means Ya by Xa is equal to Yb by Xb, so these ratios will be typically constant. Then you can't find any difference in the compositions of the vapor phase and the liquid phase. So such a systems are called azeotropic systems, and such systems are existing in the data bank, and they are very difficult to separate, and we have a unconventional methods for the separation of azeotropic mixtures. Okay, and you can now see that the diagrams, equilibrium diagrams, which can be drawn y versus x. So you can see they are deviating from the 45 degrees wide. If the loop is very wide, then the separation is very easier. If this curve is very close to the 45 degrees diagonal line, then the separation is difficult. Okay, so you can see that different shapes of the curves also for the non-ideal system. So you can have different shapes, and there you can see that when the concentrations are low, the separation is very difficult. When the concentrations are high, the separation is easy. And here this system, so when the concentrations are low, then the separation is very easy. When the concentrations are high, then the separations are difficult. So there is a many type of this equilibrium diagrams are available, and depending upon the system and its boiling point. For the non-ideal mixes, as I showed, you have to use the thermodynamics models to develop the X versus Y. For the ideal mixers, so you have a simple Raoult's law model by which you can able to develop this. Okay, and there are different type of systems, mixers also you can find out. For example, if you take the ethanol and water system, and at a particular concentration for ethanol and water system, you can see that it will be boiling at less temperature than the component A and component B, because one is a ethanol boiling point and another is the water boiling point. So you can see for ethanol water system at 89.4 mole percent at 1 atmosphere pressure, and it will boil 78.2 degrees centigrade, which is a lesser temperature than the water boiling point and also ethanol boiling point. Okay, so such type of systems are called minimum boiling point azeotrophs. So in the minimum boiling point azeotrophs at a particular composition, for example 89.4 mole percent, you see that the 45 degrees diagonal line and the curve xy curve will coincide each other, and only the separation is possible up to this only, and later the separation will become difficult. So to have a 100% separation in case of the ethanol and water system, it is highly difficult. Maybe by using some methods you can able to achieve, but very similarly carbon disulfide and acetone will also show this type of the boiling point diagrams. So they are also called minimum boiling point azeotrophs. And you can also see certain systems will be showing the maximum boiling point azeotrophs. For example, if you take hydrochloric acid and water, so they will be boiling at 110 degrees centigrade 1 atmosphere. So they are, this particular temperature is more than the boiling point of water and boiling point of HCl, hydrochloric acid. So they are called maximum boiling point azeotrophs, and acetone chloroform also show the maximum boiling point azeotroph, where the mixture will boil more than the boiling point of the component, a low volatile component and more volatile component, that is component 2. So this type of systems also exist in the chemical process plant, for which case the separation is difficult, and you can have um, some other methods by which you can able to separate these systems. But when you are talking about a simple systems, and also in certain cases you can increase the pressure over the equilibrium, or you can reduce, that means vacuum distillation you can do. So suppose if you are having a azeotrope at a particular condition at 1 atmosphere pressure, if you are applying the below 1 atmosphere, then that azeotropism in the system can be eliminated. So you can have a conventional XY diagram and see that this is the effect of the equilibrium. So if you are having a this type of system, and if you want to do at high pressure, then you may get azeotropism at particular concentration. So this azeotropism can be increased, eliminated from the system by reducing the pressure. Okay, this is the effect of the pressure on the equilibrium. Now coming to the, I will just explain the two different methods. And the first method which I will explain you is called equilibrium distillation method. In the equilibrium distillation method, which is also called flash vaporization, and we will be applying this particular uh, operation when alpha value is considerably high, then you have a this type of XY diagram. So in this particular equilibrium distillation or flash vaporization, the feed mixture will be sent to the flash vaporizer. So here what will happen, suddenly a quantity of heat will be given to the feed. So as a flash it will be given to the heat, so it will be absorbing suddenly that much of heat. Then the feed will be divided into the two different phases, the vapor phase and the liquid phase. Those vapor phase and liquid phase, for example 100 kilomoles have been converted into 60 vapor 40 liquid, and it will go through a valve, throttling valve, and so that the vapor which has been generated, that will not get condensed. The liquid also will be as it is, so they will go into a a separator which is called a contactor, where they will be having contact for a certain period, and there you can maintain certain temperature and pressure. At that prevailing conditions, the vapor and liquid will be coming out. So when the vapor and liquid will come out, then the Y value in the vapor phase will be much higher than the X value in the liquid phase. So what happened? The vapor phase will have more composition of the more volatile component than the liquid phase. So in that way, the separation will be taking place. Okay. So this is called the flash vaporization, because a flash of heat will be given suddenly to the system, and it has been converted into the vapor phase and the liquid phase, and the equilibrium will be maintained in the separator, so that the vapor phase and the liquid phase will get saturated. Saturated in the sense they will reach to the equilibrium, then they will be coming out. So therefore it will be called equilibrium distillation, because the equilibrium vapor phase is removed and the equilibrium liquid phase is removed. Therefore these two phases are equilibrium. In the state of the equilibrium, then it will be called as a equilibrium distillation operation. So this can be done continuously. This is also called a single stage equilibrium distillation operation. Okay, so you can do certain calculations, as one can see here. For example, you take this is the curve. So initially feed is having no F kilomoles, and it is converted into the V and L. So anybody can do the material balance. F is equal to V plus L, isn't it? So if you want to do the, this is the composition of the more volatile component in the feed. This is the composition of the more volatile component in the vapor. This is the composition of the more volatile component in the liquid phase. So if you want to balance more volatile component, how many moles of the more volatile component is there in the FO? If you multiply with XF, F into XF, that many moles of more volatile component is there in the feed, and V into Y, that many moles of the more volatile component is there in the vapor phase. L into X, that many moles of more volatile component is there in the liquid phase. Therefore F into XF is equal to V into Y into plus L into X. So from that equation you can get this one. See, F into XF, F has been brought here into Y, and then you can have F by F means this minus this will give the L. So from this equation you will get this one, because here it is defined as F is equal to V by capital F. So this much fraction of the vapor is formed by taking that much of heat. So this is how you can understand that XF is equal to F into YA. This F is fraction of the vapor generated plus 1 minus F. So you can simplify this one, and you can draw, this is called operating line. So when you just readjust this one, so YA is equal to minus 1 minus F. If you bring this right, minus 1 minus F by F XA plus XF by F. So the slope of this line, this operation, this is called operating line equation. The slope of this operating line equation is equal to minus L by V, which is equal to minus 1 minus F by F. So in that way you can draw one line from the feed composition to onto this curve, because this is the equilibrium curve. So you can draw a line onto the equilibrium line, and where it is intersecting, operating line and the equilibrium line is intersecting, there you will get the Y and X values, which are equilibrium values. So that means if you have an idea about that, upon the taking of this much of heat, only this much of vapor is generated, then the small f can be known, and you can draw this line, which is called operating line. Then you can find out the subsequent values of the composition of the vapor, composition of the liquid, by using this equation. Otherwise, if you are having an idea that I should get continuously this much quality of the product, then the Y value is known. Then you can draw a line and see that how much of vapor can be generated by calculating the small f. So you can draw this line by using the equilibrium diagram, and you can find out based on the no, quality how much quantity of vapor is generated, or if you know the quantity of the vapor, then you can find out the quality of the vapor which is generated. Otherwise you can use if you want to avoid this one, and alpha can be assumed as a constant, and you can use these two equations and calculate the unknown parameters from this. So this is a very simple distillation operation which is called equilibrium distillation, because the vapor phase and liquid phase are finally forming the finally reaching into the equilibrium. So it is called equilibrium distillation. So many of such vaporization operations are done in the chemical process plant. Okay, so maybe if alpha value is found very high, then you can apply this type of systems. Even for multi-component systems also, you can apply this one, and there you subsequently can calculate the composition of the each component in the vapor phase and the composition of the each component in the liquid phase. Okay, so this is one operation by which you can find out. And then you have a simple and batch differential distillation. I'll just give the introduction, then I will stop, and we'll have some contact discussions one-on-one. After this one, I'll explain. See, in many cases, like wherever the batch operations are there, what they do is once the reaction is over, that reacting mixture, for example, say that there is a 100% conversion, so you have only products. Now one A is a product and B is a byproduct, so you want to separate A from the B. Sometimes some unconverted, if 100% conversion is not there, so they will be there. So multi-component mixtures, both can be done by using the simple distillation. But here you should see one thing is very important, is that the boiling point differences should be considerably high. That means alpha value should be high, then only you can do that. So what is the difference between that flash vaporization and this? So this is a batch and that is a continuous operation. So wherever the batch mode is required, you can do the batch type of distillation. So a batch of liquid will be taken in a reactor, or in some separator, you can say that separator. Then you can give the heat to that liquid. So by taking the heat, it will generate certain vapor. So this vapor will be continuously going into the condenser. So the because once they are in the vapor form, then they can move into the surface condenser. So there the heat will be removed, then they get condensate. So this is called a distillate also. The condensate is called distillate. So if you continuously do this operation, then what will happen? All the liquid will be collected as a distillate. But if you stop after some time, after 1 hour, or you can fix, suppose if you take 100 kilomoles of liquid, and let us say 40 kilomoles of liquid is collected as a distillate, and 60 kilomoles are left here. So that time you can clearly see the composition difference of the more volatile component in the distillate as well as the residue. So this operation is very simple. Then you can call it as a simple distillation, and a batch of liquid is taken and it is being continuously done for a certain fixed time. Therefore it is called batch distillation, because it is a time dependent, and each time a differential amount of vapor is generated and it is collected here. A differential amount of vapor at a particular temperature, a differential amount of vapor is generated, and that vapor is isolated and it is collected as a distillate. So that's why it is called differential distillation. So distillate is not obtained at a time. And also you can see in the vapor phase, which is obtained over the liquid, the composition is go on changing. Why it is changing, and I will explain in a due course of time. So they will be continuously collected for some amount of time. Therefore, initially the distillate will be having more composition of the more volatile component, and later on the composition will be continuously reducing, and if you stop at a particular time, then it will give you a particular value. And if you continuously do till all the liquid is evaporated, then whatever the feed composition is there, same composition will result here. So each time a differential amount of distillate is obtained, and it is getting accumulated in the product, you can say bottle, or a product vessel. So therefore it is called differential distillation. Okay, so this is usually done in the batch operation or batch process plants, and here we will be having certain equations, and which can be developed based on the mass balance. So you can take that in the still, initial amount in the still is equal to amount left in the still plus amount collected as a distillate, or if you take here itself amount vaporized. So for example, you can see that initial amount in the still X into L means these many moles of more volatile component are there in the this one, and now a differential concentration is obtained, it is left, so X minus dx, and a differential quantity is left this liquid, that is dl, so L minus dl. So this and this will give you the amount left in the batch still. Then how much is vaporized? So in the vapor you are having Y mole fraction of the more volatile component, and dl of liquid is evaporated, so that's why written as Y into dl. So this is the mass balance equation, and this equation will go on changing with the time to time because dx dl are continuously varying, and obviously dl is equal to dv. Whatever vapor is obtained here, that is from the liquid only, so dv is equal to dl. That's why Y into dv is written as Y into dl. So if you simplify this equation, X into L, this will be coming out. So here you can say that two small quantities can be very small quantity. You can neglect this one, then you can simplify this one. Then see, initially when X is equal to certain value, you are having L1, and X is equal to when you are stopped, you are having L2. So you can integrate in this way, and finally you'll get this equation. This equation is called Rayleigh equation. So Rayleigh equation is used to estimate the compositions and the final quantities and qualities of the distillate as well as residue. Okay, so this is how we can generate this equation to estimate the final leftover residues and its compositions. So this is how the simple and batch distillation will be done. Okay, so I think we will stop here, and because it's already 1 hour, so you can interact with me for another half an hour. Hello, all are there, or hello?
Hello, sir.
All are there, or stop the recording?
Yes, sir. 60. Okay, sir.